Okay, so today we are talking about creating ribbon modifications, specifically ribbon modifications that will persist with the workbook. So you've noticed in many of the workbooks that you download to do the assignments for this class, there's like a ribbon built into them. In fact, every single one I think has a ribbon built into it. And so we're going to see how to do that today. It is like there's some good news and some bad news here. The bad news is it's not especially easy to do. The good news is it's not especially easy to do, which means that almost no one can do this. So when you do this, you will impress not only your mother, she's impressed at almost anything, but you'll impress your boss and your coworkers because they had no idea that you could do this, even do this in Excel. All right, so a little bit of history on like this kind of the background for these ribbon modifications. The first one is that prior to Excel 2007, I remember when the change happened in Excel 2007 to where we actually got the ribbon. Before that, it was just like a menu. It was just like the top level. And when you clicked one of those, it would drop down more words. You could click one, it would pop out other words. That old menu structure, we used to be able to manipulate directly through VBA. We could just say, pop another menu in there, put these choices in it. When the user clicks on this, and that could all happen as a part of VBA. And so when they threw away that old menu structure and came up with the ribbon, we were like, that's great. We just got to find out how do you modify this. And from the very beginning, Microsoft is like, you can totally modify this ribbon. And when they said, here's how you do it, all of us who are like experienced developers were like, you have got to be kidding me. It was terrible. I'm going to show you just how terrible it was so you can appreciate that what we're doing today is not as bad as it was kind of at the first. And then we'll see how to do it so where it's not so bad, but you're still going to look at it and go, wow, yeah, it's hard. And so what we don't do is we do not modify the ribbon with VBA. You can't. We can do a little bit of interaction with it once it's been modified, but let me show you how we do the modification. In fact, I think what I want to do is I want to start with like an existing homework workbook. I should have had this downloaded already. Let me go ahead and pull one down from My Educator. We'll go to My Educator, log in. She looks pretty happy to be doing her studies on the train. But is this even our course? This is not our course. What's our course? 1206 AXAC. Manage assessments. I'm just trying to get one that's got a ribbon modification built into it. Here's highlight a row. I'll preview that one. And download it. Okay. If you want to do this along with, you're welcome to do it, but like following the main example doesn't require you following what I'm about to do. In fact, I would probably recommend that you kind of sit back and watch and in your mind say, wow, am I glad we don't have to do that? So I've downloaded this folder. Now, the first thing to realize is that the underlying file structure for this, beginning with Excel 2007, it's no longer, prior to 2007, it's like a proprietary structure that Excel saves all of its file formats in. In fact, what was it? My daughter, who's at graduate school at the University of Minnesota, sent me a text message earlier this week, and she was just bemoaning because what she had done is she had taken a CSV file, and she had opened it, and she was going to do all kinds of modifications in it that wouldn't like live in a CSV file. And so she's all, I was so proud of myself for remembering to save it as an Excel file before I moved on. And then she went on and did stuff that was like new to Excel, like since 2007, which was like conditional formatting and some other things that didn't exist back in pre-2007. She didn't realize that she'd accidentally saved it as a .xls file, which is the pre-2007 format. And so there were kind of big changes at 2007. And anything that was not around in Excel before 2007, you can't save in a .xls format. And so she like closed it, brought it back up, and everything that she had changed was gone because it just wasn't supported in that old proprietary format. So in 2007, they introduced a new format that's called OOXML. One of those O's stands for open. So it's like a published standard that now, like you can like read the Excel, like the specs that say, this is how you make an Excel file. And you can like build that from scratch. And Microsoft is like, we're totally happy to have you do that. But the format is, it is a zip archive of a collection of XML documents. Whew. when I say zip archive, show me how comfortable you are when I say zip archive, 0 to 5. What did that mean? 0, 2, 1. Okay. If I say compressed folder, show me where you are with compressed folder. Okay. Compressed folder is exactly the same thing as a zip archive. Before we had compressed folders, they were called zip archives. So zip may be an acronym, but here's what happened. You got to roll the clock back to the 1970s. Like when we have computer systems, there are like hundreds of files that kind of work together for us to be able to do what we need to do. And like in the early days, like on mainframe, we're saying, listen, we kind of load this set of files into memory to do what we need to do. But then it's like even before the days of hard disks. But now we need to be able to kind of save that data and put it somewhere else. Maybe it was after hard disks, I'm not really sure. So how do we make a backup of like all these thousands of files? And the truth is, like when you're saying, hey, I want to move this file, and I'm moving thousands of little files, something's going to happen to be a little hiccup, and one of those files will go bad. And you won't find that out until you like try to bring all those thousands of files back to make the system run the way it used to run before. And so they invented a file structure called TAR, .tar. It stood for tape archive. What a tape archive was, it was saying, listen, take all these thousands of files and let's bundle them up into one file. And then we'll tell the operating system, copy that one file over to the tape. And then if that one file failed, we know we have to do it again. But if it successfully made it through, we know we had them all. And so that's, in fact, it's still, if you live in the world of Linux, you will still see .tar files today, which are just a single file that has lots of files built into them. Well, a zip archive or a compressed folder is like the same thing, except they said, you know what? We've got all these different files. We can do some compressing to it to make it actually take up less space. Just because I think it would be, good for your general computer literacy to understand how something gets compressed. So if you have a file that says the same word in it like thousands of times, the idea is you can say, oh, that word that's in there thousands of times, put that in a table over here that says, here's this word. And then everywhere that word used to be, put the number 1. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. There is, then when you put it back together, you say, oh, find all the ones, take that word and put it in there. Oh, by the way, there's some 2s in here too. Take those 2s and take this word and put it in. That's how compression works. It's really pretty simple. And so that's what they did. They said, take the tape archive, a single file that has all these in, and then let's put some compression to it so we can make it smaller. And that's great because it doesn't take as much space on the disk or doesn't take as much space going across, some kind of a network link. Okay, so that's what a zip archive is. So when you look at an Excel file, it is a compressed folder of a bunch of other files that may have whole folder structure in it as well. Now, what I'm about to do is absurd. What I'm about to do, because this is not something you could normally do. The only reason what I'm about to do works is because this really is a compressed folder. And so I'm going to change the name of this. I'm going to rename this from .xlsm to .zip. That's where the word zip archive comes from. It's this zip. And when you do that, the operating system is going to say, that's nuts. Like you changed the extension and that file probably isn't going to work. And what am I going to say? I know better. I know better. Yeah, it's okay. So now it looks like a zip folder and I'll double click it and it opens up and here's all this other stuff inside of it. But before I just kind of work with the zip folder, I'm going to fully extract it. So that's still zipped. It's still kind of in this compressed format, but my operating system is like, oh yeah, you can kind of uncompress this on the zip and uncompress this on the fly and let you see it. But no, I want to actually really uncompress this. So I'll just right click it and choose extract all. And it's like, where do you want to put it? Like wherever you thought was a good place is a good place. Okay, so now it's actually created a folder. So here's the zip folder. Maybe you can see the little zipper on the folder. So here's the zipped one, and here's the one that's not zipped, right? It's just a regular folder. We'll go out minus. So now I'm going to take a look at this one, and it's got that same contents in it. Okay, well, first thing I'm going to look at here is I'm going to look at this XL folder. And in that, we've got worksheets. And I think we had just one worksheet. So here's an XML. Now, when I say XML, Show me how comfortable you are with that term, XML, 0 to 5. Like 1 is I've heard it before somewhere. 0 was, I'm not even sure I've heard it before. Okay, how about HTML? Okay, so HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. XML is Extensible Markup Language. HTML is a subset of XML. The idea behind XML is like, I could create my own tags. And it was like in the late 1990s, early 2000s, the XML file format was like the format that folks thought this is going to be the way that we totally exchange data in the future. And we do use it for exchanging data between systems, but it's pretty wordy. There's a lot of overhead involved with it. And it's been replaced largely by another file structure called JSON. So if you've heard of JSON, it's a way of exchanging data from one system to another. It really replaced XML, but at the time that Microsoft is building this format, they're like, XML is the future. And so we're going to use XML. That's why they use XML. From my perspective as an outsider. So let's just take a look at what this XML sheet looks like. Right? This, opening it in Microsoft Edge. So I'm going to cancel that. And I'm going to open this using Microsoft Edge is trying to take over my computer at the moment. Can I close it with Alt F4? Yes, I can. Okay, I'm going to open this with code. So I'm just going to open this with a text editor. It's a nice text editor. So I'm just going to drag this sheet over here and open it. So this, do you want to, yes, just open the file. Thank you. So this is that, this is the data of that sheet. And you can kind of see the you see how it's got like tags and then slash tag. There's a value tag. In some cell somewhere, there's 6. That's on row 98. Probably C98 is probably where the 6 is. And somewhere else, we've got some other values here as well. So literally, if I could figure out what cell that was in, and I came here and changed that to 16, and then recompressed this and opened it back up as a workbook, that cell would say 16. This is the way the data is actually stored. It's hideous. There it is. And this looks bad because it's not formatted at all. And let's see, Control-Shift-F. There's no formatter installed for Excel files. That's it there. Now, it turns out it does all of the numbers this way, but let's see, shared strings. There's another file here called shared strings. And if it's text, it puts the, I double-clicked it again. It puts the text into this other file. So every word that's a text file is over here. And this is, again, I could change Salt Lake City to Salt Lake Town. And then if I recompress this, which I'm going to try to do, we'll be able to see that somewhere it says Salt Lake Town on the one sheet that's in here. Okay, so that's like normal structure. But if I go up one level higher, if this is like a workbook that I had just built from scratch, this folder would not exist here, custom UI, so the custom user interface. So what the instructions in 2007 when they released this, they're like, okay, developers, here's what you do. Unzip your Excel file. Make a folder called custom UI. In that folder, put this custom UI.xml. And then here's the here's the file that says, hey, we're going to modify our ribbon in our set of tabs. We're making a new tab. It's going to be called the tab assignment tab. And it'll say assignment on it. It'll have a group inside that with a label of homework. And there'll be a button on that that has a label of highlight row. Maybe you remember this one. And let's see, somewhere I must be telling what the image is that goes on that. Oh, the image there is this thing called highlight. So this is the structure. That's what we had to do. They're like, get your fingers ready and type in an XML file that specifies this change to the ribbon. And then once you've done that, compress it back up together in a file. And so let's just try to change it real quick. Instead of saying highlight row, I'm going to change it to say highlight the row. I'll save that. I'll save these other ones that I changed. And then I'm going to come back up to this level, I'll select these and say, I want to make these into a compressed folder. Send to a compressed folder. And what am I going to call it? Highlight. Whoops. I'm going to change it to highlight.xlsm. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Now, here's the problem. Like if you made any little small mistake there, you'd try to open it and it'd be like, sorry, this thing's corrupt. Let's see if I did it all right. Is it going to open? Looks like it opened. Enable content. Okay, so somewhere, let's look at the ribbon. Yeah, highlight the row. See how it made the change here? What did I call it? Salt Lake Town. There's Salt Lake Town. So when it made this, so that's the background here, is that's the file structure that we have to do. Now, the good news is that there's some tools available that make that process that I just did by hand easier. And that's what we're going to start off with today. All right, so let's come back to our Excel. And let's go ahead and get this downloaded and installed. So the Microsoft, this is the Office Ribbon X editor. Boy, I got to remember how this works. So it's taken me here. Is there a place to download here? Assets. Down here at the bottom of this page, it says Assets. And you can kind of take your approach about how you want to do this. So there's one here that's like the full installer. One of these got to be huge compared to the others. 67. Self-contained. Yeah, so this relies on something called .NET, which is probably installed on your computer. If not, it'll prompt you to install it. You can bypass it if you download the bigger one here. But I would recommend that you do this one. Let's give this one a try right here, this second one. So this is an installer. So download this 4.3 megabytes file and install that. It may prompt you to install something called the .NET framework. If it does, go ahead and install that. I don't have permissions to install on this machine. And so I think I'm just going to download the binaries zip file. Let's see. There's two that are binary zip, self-contained. I don't think I need the .NET, so I think I'm going to take this one. So that's, I'm just going to extract these, put it there, that's fine. So I haven't installed this, but I think I can come and find the executable file and launch it. I think it'll just launch. Oh no. You must install .NET zip. No. So I'm going to have to go after that larger one. So let me go after this one. A little longer to download. Open it, extract all. Hopefully this one will work without having to install. And after, remember what it was called? Oh, not that one. Have to find the executable file here. Here it is, Office Ribbon Editor exe. Please work. Good. So what we're trying to do is trying to get this tool open. Anyone else have this open yet? So it looks like some of you have gotten there. If you're trying to do it and you're running into an error that you understand, let me know and I'll come help you. What this tool will do is it will do the extraction, it'll build the file structure for us and get us, we'll still have to work in the XML, but it will get us built mostly there, and it will do the recompression for us. So it's going to be a lot nicer to work with this than doing it by hand. Anyone need a hand to get this going? Show me how many more minutes you need to be able to make this work. 0 or 1 or 2. So only people who are holding up hands have 0, which means no one is waiting. Either you're not doing it, which is fine, or you're ready to go. So I'm going to go, unless you say something. Okay. So what I'd like to do is the file that we downloaded to work on. I'm going to get rid of this highlight XML one. Okay, so here's the file that we've downloaded. And you may recognize this. This is not, I'm sure this is not the one that we built in class, but this is one I probably built in a prior semester. But you remember how this works. I think we've probably got a way to delete. Control, let's see, Alt F11. We've got make chart, we've got clear data, and delete charts. We've got three things that we're doing. What is clear data? So clear data should just, I'm going to delete the chart. So right now we have to kind of come run this code from our Visual Basic editor. That clears the charts. I would like to clear the data. That should clear that data out of the way when I run it. Clear data. And then if I'm on one of these and run make chart, it should build a chart. But there's no data, so it's kind of a boring chart. Okay. Just clear charts again. But so my goal then is to actually build a ribbon that will have those three functions in it. Build the chart, clear the data, clear the charts. So we are going to extract this file into its component parts and modify that XML file. What do you think? Should we close this workbook before we do that? We should totally close this workbook before we do that. The sad thing is that if I say, hey, let's go ahead and modify the ribbon on this workbook, it'll be great. It'll open it right up, and it will just take the last saved version of the file and extract it and work with it. The safest thing you can do is never to have this workbook open in both places at the same time. So I'm going to close it out of Excel, save my changes. Please close, go away. Once that closes, I'm going to open it using my Ribbon X editor. So there's a little open button here, and I'm going to go find that file. It was in my downloads, and I called it, I think it's just called Chart Ribbon for you, but I've already named it to example for this semester, W24. So I will open that, and I have now opened that workbook here. I can't change the data here. It's not going to try to let me edit this formulas or anything. It's just about the custom user interface. And the only indication that I have that it's open is that I can see the object right here. So great, I'll click on that. And now that that's selected, I'm going to say I'm ready to insert a modification. So on the Insert tab, I've got a couple of different approaches here. I can do either the 2007 version or the 2010 plus version. Here's what happened. They first did this in 2007. It was out there for a couple of years. People were using it. And they were like, this is terrible. Wouldn't it be better if it did this? And wouldn't it be better if it did this? And so by the time the next release of Office came out, 2010, they were all, yeah, we're going to make it do some stuff. And they haven't changed it since. They haven't like added anything else since then. And so like back around 2010, 11, 12, where there were still a lot of people working on 2007, you're like, I should probably make a 2007 ribbon because that could be read by anything. It would just limit me to the functionality that was available then. Do you know of anyone who's using Excel 2007? Like, how old were you in 2007? 5? Yeah, this is a long time ago. So I'm going to go ahead and add a 2010 custom part. That means if someone opens this with Excel 2007, they're going to have no idea that this ribbon modification is there, and that's okay with me. So this has now given me like the structure. It's built the folder and the XML file to do here. So I'm ready to start writing XML, but also on my insert, I'm going to come to sample XML. And by the way, you can do this for Word as well as for PowerPoint. But here's one, Excel, a custom tab. That's delightful. They get an example for just what I want to do. So I'll click Excel, a custom tab. Oh, this will insert custom XML. Do you want to continue? Yes. So now it actually has the file for me for this custom UI 14. And here it is. If I can zoom in a bit on this. Hey, so let's take a look at what it's saying. So this first tag, custom UI, says, hey, I'm making a custom user interface thing. Next says, we're going to modify something about the ribbon. The very fact that there's a ribbon tab here makes me think there must be something else that you can modify besides the ribbon. I don't know what it is, but here we go. Then inside the ribbon, here's a set of tabs. We're going to have like these tabs here in the middle. And now we've got a new tab that we're building. This tab is going to have a label of Contoso, which is a fictional company that Microsoft made for making examples quite a while ago. And here we're saying we want this to go after the home tab. So first one is the home tab. This is saying insert a new tab right after the home tab and push everything else off to the side. I got to tell you, when people are looking for a ribbon that got added, they don't look there. Where do they look? All the way at the right. And so I'm going to just get rid of this, and it will go all the way at the right. And I'm going to call this census. C-E-N-S-U-S. C-E-N. That looks better. So be a new tab, and on the tab, it will say census. Now, there are several groups in here. Let's look at this first one in this example. So first of all, you'll notice this says ID. When you put an ID on a tag here, you're saying, I am making a new kind of thing. And so I have to define the ID for this. Every tag has to have its own ID. This has an ID MSO, which stands for Microsoft Office. And what this is saying is, listen, just bring in an existing group. Like there's a clipboard group that is like already defined as part of the interface. And I'm saying on this tab that I'm making, bring in the clipboard. I don't really want that here, but that's what that would do. So just imagine, I'm looking, I have Excel closed, but you've got that clipboard group on your home tab. You're saying, I also want that group on this tab. So you can like make a tab that brings all your favorite tools into one place. Truth is, I kind of want the sort data button on my home tab. We could modify that. We could actually modify the home tab to kind of bring that over there. Or we could create our own custom tab that brought all our favorite tools on. What we're focusing on today is like making buttons that would invoke our VBA code. So I'm going to get rid of these two. So I don't want the font tab. I don't want the clipboard. I think I will leave one of these on, data align. I guess I'll leave the data alignment group on. So all these ones that are group MSO, I'm getting rid of those except for one just so we can see what it does. But this one that's group with an ID rather than ID MSO, this one is saying, here we are making a new group. The ID is going to be custom group. I'm okay with that ID. It just has to be unique. It doesn't show to the user anywhere. But for the label, so this is the group. Maybe I'll call this tools. And then inside that group, I've got 3 buttons. The first one, like the ID is custom button 1, 2, and 3. And again, that's okay with me. Now let's go ahead and change these IDs. Okay, we have 3 things that we're doing. One is going to be making a chart, deleting a chart, and clearing the data. So let's call this one make chart. Let's do it all in lowercase, make chart. This one will be clear charts. And this one will be clear data. Now, the label is what will be displayed to the user underneath the picture for this tool. So our label here will just kind of, I'll make them be the same thing, just without the underscore. Make chart. This one is clear charts. And this one is clear data. All right, there are 2 sizes that you can make the icon. Those sizes are large and normal. There is no small icon, apparently. Kind of reminds me of the olive industry. Like, you know what the sizes of olives are? You know what the smallest size of olive is? Medium. Like you buy medium olive, you're buying the smallest size. It goes to up there. Large, giant, or large, extra large, giant. And what's the largest one? Colossal. Anyway, large and normal is your choices here. And large, and you'll see these. Do I have anything open that's got tabs? Yeah. So large is like that. Normal is like this. So if you have normal, it'll try to kind of fit 3 into a space. If you have large, it'll be the same large size. I'm going to just make all 3 of these large buttons. I've got one ribbon that's just going to have these few tools on it. There's no reason for me to try to cram them in. I'll make them easy to click on, easy to see into. Okay, now on action is, what do we want to do when you click on this thing? Now let's do this. I am going to run a procedure called X underscore, and then it'll be something similar to this: make charts, clear charts, and clear data. So I'm going to need to build for myself those VBA sub-procedures. But this is what's saying that we need to have. And we may come back and simplify this a bit, but kind of want to go through this first approach this way. And then the last thing that we're specifying here is the image that we want to show on the button. And we have a couple of approaches. One, we can say, you know what, like any of the buttons, images that are built anywhere into Office, you can just show one of those. If only you knew what its Microsoft ID was. Or we can like upload our own image and bundle it into the Excel file. Because remember, the Excel file is a zip archive. So we can take an image, put it in the zip archive, and say that's the image that we want. We're going to start by choosing some here. So we've got to make a chart. And so let's go see if we can explore the images. Probably have a link for us to do that. Come back to our page today. Here's the Microsoft Office image names PDF. Somebody, Code Cabinet, it's at codecabinet.com, went through the work to make a chart that says here's how you can see these images. I started to do this once and gave up. I was so glad to find this one that they had done. So I'm looking for one that speaks to me that says make chart. That kind of says make chart. This one says make chart even better. So this is called chart. This is chart 3D column chart. And you can see there's the normal size and there's the large size that will be shown. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to bring it on here. So for make chart, that's the image that we're going to show. Now we got clear charts. Do we have something that looks like a chart going away? I mean, I've gone through a lot and see how far down I am. Like there's thousands of these. Who made these all? I don't know. And with so many, you would think I can probably find one that looks like just what I'm after. But I'm tired of looking, so I'm going to use this one, decline invitation. And by the way, this is what the image looked like maybe in 2010, Office 2010. So they may look a little bit different now, but they don't change, usually they don't change shape drastically. And then what's the other one? Clear data. Well, maybe if I find one that looks like deleting a chart, I'll use clear data for, there's deleting a folder. Oh, that's deleting a calendar, but that kind of looks like a chart. Oh, it kind of looks like data too. I'll use that one. Cancel meeting will be what I put on for clearing data. Unless I just find another one I like better real quick here. No. Yeah, I'll just go with that one. And of course, you don't have to copy them. You could type them in as long as it gets there eventually. That's it. So that should give me the structure that I'm after. Now, there's a couple of tools here that will be handy. One of them is right here, validate my XML. Because if I've made even an XML is picky about, not about spacing, but you miss a quote or an equal sign or a backslash or a bracket, and it's like, we don't know what you're talking about. So validate here tells me, hey, your XML looks okay. Not sure that it's going to do what you want, but it's what you wrote here was valid XML. And if it didn't say that it's well formed, then you've got something there. Hopefully it's giving you a pointer to where the problem is. Now, the one other thing that I'm going to do here is this button here called generate callbacks. So generate callbacks says, listen, you're going to be calling these VBA sub-procedures. And while it doesn't have the ability to actually build those sub-procedures for you, like Microsoft is like very clear. This format is open, but the VBA part of this is locked down tight. You can't just open this file, put some XML to write some VBA in there and zip it up again. So what this tool is saying is that we know what your VBA sub-procedures have to look like, so we'll build stubs for you that you can copy and paste. It can't put them into the file, but it can let us copy and paste them. So I'm going to click on Generate Callbacks, and it's going to say, here's getting you started on the VBA that you need. So great. I'm going to copy those. And probably okay to leave them on my clipboard, but just in case, I'm going to paste them in Notepad because it would be a pain to have to go back and get them again. And now I'm ready to save. And that is now like bundling all that changes back up, putting it back into the Excel file. This is a newer version of this program that I first worked with. It now has this thing called Reload on Save, which means it's probably set up to leave this on. And if you go make changes, it'll like update it, but I'm dubious. I'm skeptical. So I'm going to close this, just file close. I thought I was going to close. Close current document. So now I know I don't have it open there, and I'm going to go reopen it in Excel. Downloads. Chart ribbons W24. Okay, so now it's opened up and I have this census tab and I've got my three buttons, make charts, clear data. At this point, they're calling sub-procedures that don't exist. Cannot run the X make chart macro. That's because it's not there. Let's go put it in there. So I'm going to put these right here at the top of this. I'm just pasting these in on the top of my existing module 2, which is where I put the code for these in the first place. Now, you'll notice that the sub-procedure actually is expecting to have a parameter passed to it. So when we click on that, it's going to pass a reference to that object, to this control. We don't need that yet. We're going to play with that here in just a minute. But for right now, let's just have these three procedures call my regular ones. So here's clear data. It's just going to call clear data. I could not have just put clear data in my VBA or in the ribbon modification because this thing is not set up to receive the parameter that's being passed to it. And so the one I call has to be ready to receive something. So I've got clear data, I've got make chart, and clear charts. Delete charts. So now I've set up the VBA sub-procedures that my ribbon is going to call to actually do something, and all they're doing is calling my regular code. So that's a good thing. So now I should be able to put some data in here. So let's build the data for a few counties here. I guess I'll be compounding Pittsylvania. There's a Pittsylvania, Virginia. Pennsylvania, that's great. And Prince Edward, Virginia. Then I should be able to select one of these and click make chart, and it should just make the chart. Make chart, it'll make the next one. It kind of moves down as it goes. Wonderful. Clear the charts, make some more charts, clear some charts. Delightful. So So that's it. That's like the entry level version of making a ribbon. Questions here? Yes. Could I hook it up to a macro that's in my personal macro workbook? That's a great question. The answer is yes, but you probably don't want to do that. Instead, if you've got personal macro workbooks, personal macros because something in your personal macro workbook is available on your instance of Excel. What you probably want to do for that, and this is probably a good time for us to look at that, there's another way to make a ribbon modification. Let's see how to do it. I'm going to choose File, Options, and then Customize Ribbon. This kind of customization that I do here, I am customizing the ribbon on this instance of Excel. So if you've got something that runs in your personal macro workbook, it's available on this instance of Excel. So what you would want to do is come down here and make a new tab. Make a new tab. How do I change the name of the tab? I don't know. Rename. What do you want to call it? My Macros. New group. I'll call it my new group. And in that, they should be able to add, oh yeah, from over here, I can add something. And so if I come down here somewhere, I'm going to have something about VBA. The truth is, I've never done this part. Here's macros. And if I have something in my personal macro workbook, it'll show here. I can just add that over here. So now I've got clear data. Well, let me put delete charts and make data. I'll put all three of these in the ribbon over here as well. So I should have one called My Macros as well when I say OK. So here's census, the modification that's done to this workbook. And here's My Macros that has those same macros here. And it should be doing the same thing. These will only work when this workbook's open, but they're going to show every single time because I've modified this instance of Excel. Make a chart. So yeah, if you're doing something that's in your personal macro workbook, that's the preferred way to do it. But what we've done so far is we've built the modification into the workbook. So if you gave this workbook to someone else, this ribbon comes along with it. Okay, let's do two more things. Let's see how we can put a different image on here. And then let's do something a little more sophisticated with how we're actually calling the procedures. So let's say out of all the thousands of images that you could choose from, you didn't like any of them. So you're going to find something else to do. Great. I'm just going to come to like Icon Finder. And let me see if I can find something that says delete chart to me. None of those really look like deleting a chart. Oh, that one is right there. That's perfect. It's beautiful. It's perfect. It's deleting a chart. You can add to cart for $2, download with a free trial. Rats. I don't want to have to download it. I'll take a screenshot. Alt print screen. I wonder if it'll let me do this. Open up Paint. Oh, look, there it is. So I'm gonna come in here and just crop this image and save. Now it turns out there is like a thing in copyright law called the fair use doctrine. And if I'm doing an in-class example, which is what I'm doing here, it's like, it doesn't even matter what the copyright restriction is. It's like, that's fair use. If I was to do this and kind of sell this product or even use this for personal use, I'm probably violating the copyright to do that if I don't pay for the license here that it's asking. So just realize I'm copying someone else's creative work. It's fair use in class today, but like what I'm showing you to get this, you probably should think differently about it. And like you can come to free, oh, maybe it's free. I don't know. Oh, I can't, that's just an image. But maybe I could do a little different search. But I'm gonna just crop this. It's kind of big, 74 by 77. I think it really wants to be like 40 by 40 is like the biggest it wants. So it's probably gonna scale. It's not gonna look really great, but you'll see how it works. Let me crop this and save it. and when I already save it, this PC, I'll put it in downloads, and I'm going to call it delete chart.png. Okay. So now let me go ahead and I've got that image that I want to use. I'm going to close this and open it again in my editor. So open charts. All right, so now instead of delete 3D column chart, that's a pity because that was actually a pretty good one for what I had. I'm going to get rid of this. And on my insert menu, I'm going to insert an icon. The icon, that one that I saved, delete chart.png, and it's now right here. Like it put that right in here. That file is now a part of this archive. And whatever name it says there, I could rename if I wanted to. I can change the ID, but that's a fine one there. I'm now going to just put that right in here, delete chart. But instead of image MSO, which is looking for the Microsoft images, I'm just going to say image. So if I import my own image to use, I have to change it from image MSO just to image. Should be able to say save and then close. Then we'll open again. And now it's got that image that I uploaded. Okay, questions on putting your own image in? Pretty simple, get the image. Say you're going to insert an image and then just change it to MID MS, which is just image instead of image MSO. All right, one more thing that we're going to do in the space of this ribbon, I'll open it again, is instead of having it call all of these directly, I'm just going to call, I'll call something called run ribbon. I'll call it ribbon run. And I'm going to call the same thing with all three of these. So regardless of which button I press, I'm calling the same VBA procedure called ribbon run. I haven't made it yet, but ribbon run. I'll save this. I guess I'll generate the callback, copy this, and close. I'll reopen and come to my VBA. So now, instead of calling these all individually, they're all calling this one, but it's passing a reference to what it was, which one was clicked. So let me just do this, debug.print control. That's the name of the variable it's passed in, and I want to know the ID of it. Remember, I set up a different ID for each one of these. So now we're not making charts or clearing charts or anything. We're just printing out the ID. So now when I come to my ribbon and run that, it's saying, oh, the ID of that one was make chart. This one's clear charts. This one's clear data. So because I'm getting something different passed in for each one, I could say, oh, well, let's just do a select case and select. And then we'll put in 3 cases here. Well, these are the cases. Case make chart. Didn't quite go as I hoped it would. Then we'll just do those same things. So we're now calling a single one, looking at which one was passed in, clear charts, clear data. And I'm going to go ahead and leave these in for the example that I'm going to upload. But now it should do the same thing. But I'm just kind of showing you, you can call a single function and then decide what to do in that function. So this should do the same thing. So I'll delete the charts. I'll make a chart. And of course, it'll clear the data. Okay, questions on what we've done so far? Okay, so that's ribbon modification. Folks, anything that you see in the ribbon, you can do with ribbon modification. So like having drop downs in the ribbon up here, you can do this. It is not simple. But like if you want to do it, this is stuff that you can do. Now, where will you look to learn about that? Because that's beyond what I'm teaching you. So let's go back to our class. That's this first link. So this guy, Ron de Bruin, was like some developer in the Netherlands. And, oh, dear visitor, after extensive consideration, I decided to remove all of my Excel for Windows content from Ron de Bruin. And never mind. He's taken this off. He was it's unfortunate because it was a good site. Hi, Ron. Oh, I never knew that's what he looked like. I guess he's retired. So, oh, good. It's an email. You can complain to him. So now I'm not sure where you would look. But like in 2007, he was the first one to like put together like a good set of documents to say, here's how you do this. You might imagine the document that came from Microsoft was pretty bad. And this guy dug into it and said, okay, here's what you have to do. And now it looks like he's closed his content. I don't know where else you would look, but if only we had some connection to a worldwide network of information, maybe someday. Okay, so the point is, like, there's other things you can do beyond what we're doing in this class. Ron's not telling us anymore, sad to say. Okay, so that's modifying a ribbon. And it's like, this really is something that folks are like amazed by. Okay, next thing that we're doing in this space is making an Excel add-in. So here's the thing. So far what we've done in this class is we said, let's build like VBA content into the workbook. And so if someone wants that content, you got to give them this macro-enabled workbook. And if they want to have this work on some other workbook, then like if you want the macros that you've written in this workbook to be available on a different workbook, well, it would still work. All you have to do is open up the other workbook and have your macro workbook open. And if your code is set up to work on the active workbook rather than on this workbook, as we've done in so many of our examples, then that would work. So they could bring that up and they could use the macros from one to work on another one. But the ribbon modification is only visible if the workbook that it's built on is the active workbook. So watch what happens if I bring another workbook up here. My macros is here because that's the one built into this one, but census is gone. Census is tied to this workbook. So it may be that you create a set of tools that you want to be able to have several people in your company use on different workbooks. It's not just this workbook. And to do that, what you want to do is to produce an add-in. Now, when we go to the add-in store, like we're on the home tab and we're like, hey, let's come here to add-ins and do an add-in here. This is an approach to making add-ins that was introduced in 2013, and it is totally different from VBA. This is building add-ins using JavaScript and web technology. And it's a steep hill to climb to get here. But there's a way to make an add-in with VBA that goes through this approach. In fact, you may remember the beginning of class on the developer tab, we came to Excel add-ins. Like you all installed this Atlas VBA one. That's an add-in that I wrote in VBA. It's the one that does the grading of your homework. So this is just written with VBA and then made into an add-in. So in the next 14 minutes that we have, I'm going to show you how to make this kind of add-in. Actually, I'm going to show you how to make this kind of add-in in the next 14 seconds. Like it doesn't take long. So once you've got your workbook that's got your ribbon modification built into it, then you just say File, Save As, and then instead of an XLSM, you make it into an XLAM. And something here says Excel add-in. I always go past it when I'm looking for it. Anyone see it yet? Have I passed it? Oh, here it is. Excel add-in, XLAM. Now, I'm going to save this first as an XLSM, save. Save. Because the XLAM is like a non-editable version. It's like I'm publishing this workbook as an add-in. So I'm going to save this as XLAM. Yeah, help me. Down. Here it is. There we go. And save. Now, you're going to notice that if I make this a little bit wider, can I see it? Yeah, you'll notice, do you see it right here? It's still XLSM, because what it just did was it published this workbook as an add-in. So my XLAM is right out here. it probably published it in the location where the add-ins normally go. So let's go find where it published it. I should have, in fact, let me just save it. It'll probably be easier to save it in a new place. So File, Save As, not downloads, but XLAM. And see where it's putting it, like deep here where all of your other add-ins are. No. I'm going to browse and put it in my downloads just so I can find it. So I've saved it in two places. I've saved it in my downloads, and then I've saved it kind of deep in that location. Let me come back to my downloads folder if I can find it. Downloads. And there's the XLAM. So that is now the add-in. I need to get that add-in over to someone, and it will just, once I install the add-in, it's just like, oh, every time you open Excel, open this workbook too, but it hides the workbook. You can't even see, I don't think there is a way to show the workbook. So, but the ribbon modification, when you install the add-in, sticks around no matter which worksheet is on. So I'm going to go ahead and install the add-in. Let me close this workbooks one. Do you want to save it? I didn't make any other changes, so I won't save it. So here's book one. Let me go and install that add-in. So on my developer tab, I'll go to Excel add-ins. And it doesn't show it. So I'm going to browse. Yeah, but it does show it here in my add-ins form section. And the truth is, when you put it here in the add-ins, that's where it's expecting to find it. Excel is going to be, okay, this seems right. The add-ins here is where it belongs. If I install it like for my downloads, 2 or 3 times a month, the thing's just going to disappear. And I don't even know what causes it. And you have to kind of go reinstall it. But it'll tend to stick around if you install it from here. And so I've added my charts ribbon. And now my census tab is here. And all of this code will work. The only problem is that this code is expecting certain things about the worksheet. Like this is not really meant to be an add-in, because it's expecting to find a sheet called comparison or something, and expecting to have that data there and so forth. So these will go badly. But the point is, regardless now of which sheet is active, that ribbon modification stays there, and then that's available. So it must have been about 2 years ago, I had a student reach out to me who had gone to work for one of the big 4 accounting firms. I want to say KPMG, but I'm not sure. And as I encourage all of my students to do, I'm like thrilled to hear from you when you've done something that's gotten you some recognition with VBA. You know, and it may be that you're like, you know what, I'm not even really that proud of this. It's pretty simple, but it like blew these other folks away who have no idea what's going on. And he was an auditor, and he was like, oh, like this stuff in auditing, I don't want to do this. I'm gonna write a macro to do this. And then like his buddies found out that he was doing that. He's like, oh man, that's making your life way better. Could I get a copy of that? He's like, she's sharing his code. And finally, he like made it into a nice add-in, you know, that you could actually distribute and people could install. And he decided to finally share it with me because he just got recognition in the PricewaterhouseCoopers, or maybe, I don't know, anyway, whichever one it was. They just like put it in their internal newsletter that goes to all their employees. And it's like, hey, this add-in's available. If you're an auditor, you can like download it and use it. So it got him like company-wide exposure at a large company. And it was like just really pretty simple stuff, but kind of applied and packaged up in a way that would help auditors do their work. And so, like, again, that's like taking you to the next level. Instead of doing development just for you, now you're doing it in such a way that it can be shared well with others. So making an add-in that you can install is like crazy easy. You just save your workbook as an Excel AM, and then make sure that your code is meant to work with like the generic workbook that it's going to be working with. Questions on making an add-in? I said 14 minutes and it took 8. So what do we do with our next 8 minutes? Review for the final exams coming up. Maybe we should take a look at the rest of the semester. So let's go to Learning Suite or Learning Suite. I don't know what's going on here. Schedule. Here's where we are. So next time we're going to get together, we'll see how to automate Solver. So there's some kind of unexpected things about automating Solver. We'll do that. And then on our last day, it turns out there's kind of a newer way of doing automation. There's this Automate tab that shows up in Excel now. And so you can record yourself doing things, but it will record this instead of using VBA, it will now record this using JavaScript. And so you might think, oh, it's like a new way built in to do automation in Excel. Why did we learn VBA, like the old school way? And the answer is we're learning VBA because VBA is like 20 times more powerful than what this is. And so at some point, I think we'll probably switch over from VBA to doing the JavaScript way, but it's still it's brand new and you're limited to working on this workbook. So you want to open up another workbook? Sorry, can't do it. You want to go out and do something with a file on the system? Sorry, can't do it. You want to reach out and get data from the web somewhere? Sorry, can't do that. So, but I at least want to introduce this to you because this is kind of a new way of doing automation that's going to be up and coming. I at least want to expose you to that. So that'll be our content for next week. Is that right? That's right, because we have 2 more days. Final exam in the testing center during the whole final exam period. So be similar to the midterm. And the study guide, I think, is it's right here on the last day of class, final exam study guide. And on Have Exemplary Attendance, I have published your attendance scores. There should be an assignment called Absences. And like you get a number of points on an assignment. So the number of points that shows is how many days that you've missed, according to my records. So if that's wrong, we need to take a look at it. So we've got all the raw data, but if there was some problem, and there was a problem in a different class, I'm hoping that you have the right numbers here. But let me know if you're seeing something that you think is out of line. If it's out of line and you don't, it kind of puts you past a barrier that you need here. Edit item. What does this say? If you missed more than 4 class periods, you get 10 points. Up to having 5 or 6, you'll get 5 extra credit points. It's not much, but I first instituted that when I thought I'm recording my lectures. I want to make sure someone shows up to class. So has anyone looked at their score so far? Raise your hand if it looks right. Raise your hand if it looks wrong. Oh, man. Okay, don't contact me about it. I got to see if I can track down what might be the problem with the code that brought it in. So, all right, I'll work on that and hopefully have an answer for you on that next Monday. Thanks for coming. Class dismissed.